It was an ordinary late afternoon. The restaurant was busy, laughter, silverware clinking, voices mingling in a chorus of normalcy. But in the corner by the door, a man stood, wearing worn clothes and a faded military jacket, surveying the interior with weary eyes. He wasn't a beggar. There was something in his gaze that betrayed decades of history, pain, and silence. What you saw was the first. He frowned and snorted as if his presence tarnished the image of the place. "Sir, are you lost?" I asked, already impatient. The man replied in a low, trembling voice, "No. I just wanted to know if I could eat something. I'll pay later." The waitress let out a dry laugh. One of those laughs that hurt, that burn, that humiliate. "This isn't a shelter, it's a restaurant. We serve customers, not beggars." Some customers glanced out of the corner of their eyes. Others pretended not to see. But everyone heard. Everyone felt the weight of those words. The veteran stood still. His stomach growled audibly. His trembling hands clutched his battered cap, marked with a small army emblem. He looked at the floor, embarrassed, as if ordering food were a crime. What I heard was a wakeful, irritated, "Please, sir, you're in the way. If you want to order something, you need money. It's simple." That sentence echoed through the room like a gunshot. A nearby woman murmured, "Poor thing." But no one said anything. No one helped him. The veteran took a step back. He looked back inside, at the tables laden with food, the laughter, the glasses being raised in toasts. And with a sigh of resignation he murmured, "I understand. I don't want to bother you." As he turned to leave, the waiter delivered the final blow. "Better yet, go find a shelter." And he laughed. Laughed loudly. He laughed like someone lacking empathy, like someone who's never seen the price of dignity exacted with bullets and blood. The audience held their breath. A fervent rage. The heart was open. And for a second the camera focused on the veteran's gaze, a gaze of someone who had seen hell and allowed it to happen in small human gestures. But what no one knew was that this starving old man had saved the lives of thousands of people. That the trembling hands that held a cap had once held a rifle amidst the mud, fear, and chaos of war. And that in a few minutes, that entire restaurant would learn the true meaning of honor and repentance. A boy at the cash register watched him curiously. And it would be this boy, unknowingly, who would be the beginning of the change to come. The waiter missed the fact that he was simply denying a plate of food. But what he really denied was a chance to show humanity. The old man walked slowly down the sidewalk, his steps short and unsteady. People swerved around him, hurried, as if their time were worth more than the story he carried on his shoulders. The street was full of life, but inside him there was only silence. Silence and memories. Memories that weighed more heavily than the worn backpack he carried on his back. His name was Antônio Duarte, but no one had called him that in years. To the few who still remembered him, he was just the old man with the military cap, an invisible man, forgotten by a country he helped protect. Antonio was a soldier on the front lines during the Gulf War. He fought in deserts, slept in the mud, carried wounded comrades in his arms. He saw friends fall to explosions, felt death whisper in his ear, and survived. But the world he found when he returned was not the same one he left. His family torn apart, his health was shaken, the government was indifferent, and society cruelly blind. With every step he took, the pain in his legs reminded him of old wounds. His body healed, but his soul never recovered. He lived on a meager pension, collecting cans and doing odd jobs when someone took pity. The restaurant he went to that day wasn't just a place with food, it was a haven of hope. Antonio didn't want handouts. He just wanted to sit down like any other human being, order a simple dish, and, for an hour, forget that he was a social ghost. But hunger. Oh, hunger doesn't ask for permission. It tightens, burns, humiliates. And when his stomach growled too loudly, there was no hiding it anymore. He entered the restaurant with the courage of someone who has faced much worse battles. But inside, he found another war. A war without bullets, but with looks of contempt. As the waiter humiliated him, his mind flashed back to the past. The sound of sirens, the smell of gunpowder, the desperation of war cries. And now, ironically, he was fighting again. But this time, he was fighting to be recognized as a person. In the small backpack he carried, there were only two things: a yellowed portrait of an entire platoon, young men smiling before battle, and a medal of honor kept in an old cloth. a medal he earned saving lives. And which, that afternoon, wasn't even worth a plate of rice. The cold wind bit his face as he left the restaurant. The smell of food in the air was torture. But even so, he didn't complain. He simply murmured, "I've been through worse." Those words, filled with resignation, cut the viewer like a blade. Because everyone can see, he doesn't speak with anger, he speaks with weariness, with a kind of pain that doesn't scream, it just bleeds silently. The camera follows him, staggering down the street. A stray dog approaches him and follows him for a few meters. He smiles with a rare affection. "You're hungry too, aren't you, buddy?" The audience feels it. They feel anger, sadness, compassion. And for the first time, they don't see a beggar. They see a forgotten hero. The narrator, in a deep, measured voice, says, "There are wounds that time doesn't heal. It only hides behind tired smiles and looks that have seen too much." Antonio moves on, but fate isn't finished with him. Something is about to change, and this time the whole world will see. The veteran was still standing at the restaurant door when a gust of cold wind blew across the street, cutting his skin like tiny blades. Hunger tightened his stomach, and his knees trembled under the weight of weakness. Even so, he tried again. He took a deep breath, adjusted his cap, and turned to the waiter with what little dignity he had left. "Sir, I fought for this country. I just wanted a meal. A simple meal." The waiter crossed his arms, laughing disdainfully. "Look, sir, I already told you. This is a restaurant, not a charity. We have an image to protect." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Some customers heard. A couple at the next table lowered their heads, pretending not to hear. A child asked his mother who that dirty old man was, and the mother simply replied, "Someone who didn't know how to take care of life." The old man lowered his eyes. There was no answer that could justify a lifetime of sacrifice completely ignored. Inside the restaurant, the laughter continued, the conversations resumed, but to those outside the sound was distant, like an echo from another world. He turned to leave, but fate, as always, still wanted to test him. "Hey, sir!" the waiter shouted. The veteran stopped, his hope changed, but the waiter merely pointed to a sign on the corner of the wall. "No beggars." "See? It's house policy. Now you know." Every word was an open wound. Every gesture of the waiter, a cruel mirror of a society that forgets its heroes. The veteran simply nodded. He picked up his cap, placed it on his head, and took a step off the sidewalk. A blank look, defeated, but still alive enough to harbor a last shred of hope. He walked away slowly, staggering. The rain began to fall, fine, almost symbolic. Drops ran down his face, mingling with silent tears. Inside the restaurant, the waiter went to the counter and told the joke to his colleagues. You should have seen the old man's face. Thinking he was going to eat for free, he should have re-enlisted to get a plate. Laughter, laughter. But one look in particular wasn't amused. A young man in his early 20s was working the cash register. He looked out the window and saw the veteran crossing the street in the rain. And in that instant, something inside him broke. As the waiter laughed, the young man murmured, "Do you know who he is?" "Who? The beggar? He must be some drunk." "No, that man is Sergeant Duarte. My grandfather served with him in the war." The silence cut through the laughter. The waiter paused, confused, trying to understand. But the young man was already rushing out from behind the counter, grabbing a coat. "If you want to laugh, laugh alone. I'll correct the mistake you just made." Outside, the veteran was already walking away, almost disappearing around the corner. The young man ran up to him, shouting, "Sir, wait!" The veteran turned slowly, surprised, and his gaze met the young man's, a look of respect, of recognition. The waiter watched from the doorway, astonished as the young man invited the veteran back in. But the old man hesitated. "They don't want me in there. They don't know who you are." And with that sentence, the audience understood that the turnaround was about to begin. The injustice had been unleashed. Now, repentance and truth would come like a wave. A man's arrogance can humiliate for a few minutes, but the truth has the power to bring the entire world to its knees in seconds. The veteran takes a hesitant step back toward the restaurant, and no one, absolutely no one, is prepared for what happens next. The rain was getting heavier. The sound of the drops hitting the asphalt sounded like the rhythm of a racing heart. that of the young employee who was running after the veteran. "Sir, please wait." The old man stopped. His body was tired, his eyes were watery. He turned slowly, facing the young man who, unlike the others, seemed to see something beyond his torn clothes and worn cap. "What's wrong, young man? Are you going to kick me off the sidewalk too?" The tone was bitter but not angry. It was the tone of someone who's grown accustomed to being ignored. The young man shook his head, panting. "No, sir. I want you to come back with me. You shouldn't leave like that." The veteran looked at him in disbelief. "And why would I do that? To be laughed at again?" The young man lowered his gaze, unsure of how to respond. But then, with a firm tone in his voice, he said, "Because you don't deserve this. You saved lives for people who don't even remember your name. And I won't let them treat you this way." The camera focuses on the veteran's face. For a second, something shines in his eyes. The distant reflection of a time when he was respected. He hesitates but accepts. The two walk back in silence as the rain washes the ground and the rumble of thunder echoes in the background. When they enter the restaurant, the ambient noise fades. The conversations cease. Everyone looks. The waiter crosses his arms, irritated. "What's this? Didn't I tell this guy to leave?" The young man responds firmly, "I did, and it was the worst thing you've ever done." A heavy silence fills the air. The restaurant owner, a man in a dark suit, emerges from the office curiously. "What's going on here?" The waiter, trying to sound professional, replies, "This beggar tried to get in without paying. He said he was a veteran, but..." The young man interrupts. "Veteran? He's a veteran. He's Sergeant Duarte. He served in the 3rd Infantry Battalion, the same platoon as my grandfather." The owner frowns. "Sergeant Duarte? That name is familiar to me." The veteran slowly removes his cap. Beneath it, a wide scar crisscrosses his scalp. He straightens, his gaze steady. "Yes, sir. I fought for this country. I bled for it. And today, all I ordered was a plate of food." The words fall like knives. The waiter tries to hide his discomfort, but the customers begin to whisper. A woman takes out her cell phone and discreetly begins filming. Another question aloud. "Is that true? Was he a soldier?" The veteran responds simply, "Not only was I lost half my platoon in the name of the flag everyone here claims to respect." The restaurant owner approaches slowly. His eyes well up. He finally recognizes him. "My God. Duarte? Duarte from Itapetininga? You saved Colonel Antunes in that siege, didn't you?" The old man simply nods. The owner brings his hand to his mouth, overcome with emotion. "He was my father." The audience holds its breath. The soundtrack swells slightly, a soft piano accompanied by melancholic violins. The waiter pales, his face drains of color, and his hand begins to tremble. He tries to justify himself. I didn't know, sir. He looked like what?" The owner cuts him off, his voice firm. "He looked like a beggar. And that gives you the right to humiliate someone?" The question echoes through the room. People look at each other, embarrassed. The silence is almost unbearable. The veteran turns to the waiter. There is no anger in his gaze, only weariness. "Boy, what made you believe that looks define a man's worth?" The sentence hits deep. The waiter lowers his head, unable to answer. The restaurant owner signals to one of the servers. "Set up the best table in the house." "But sir..." "Now." Minutes later, the veteran is seated. A white tablecloth covers the table. The young waiter brings the most expensive dish on the menu. But the old man hesitates before eating. He looks around and says, "I didn't come for pity. I just wanted respect." The owner approaches, moved, "And you have it. And you always will. Forgive me on behalf of all of us." He stands, picks up the plate, and carries it to the veteran with his own hands. The entire restaurant rises to its feet. One by one, the customers stand in silence. The waiter, with tears in his eyes, is the last to stand. There are wounds that time doesn't heal. But there are gestures that heal the soul. Respect can't be bought, it's returned. The entire restaurant is now on its feet. The sound of silverware stops. The hubbub fades. All that can be heard is the ticking of the wall clock and the sound of the rain easing outside. The old veteran, fork in his trembling hand, tries to hide his emotion. His tear-filled eyes reflect a mixture of pain, pride, and disbelief. For so many years he had been invisible. and suddenly everyone was staring at him, standing in respect. The restaurant owner discreetly wipes away the tears. He approaches the table, places his hand on the veteran's shoulder, and says in a firm but choked voice, "You shouldn't have to pay for anything here, not after everything you've done for this country, and for my father." The words echo through the room. One of the customers starts clapping, then another and another, until the entire restaurant erupts in applause. The sound is deafening. But to the old man it sounds like music, a melody he hasn't heard in decades, the melody of recognition. People look at him with genuine admiration, some with tears in their eyes. The waiter, the same one who had humiliated him before, can't help but cry. He approaches slowly, his face embarrassed. "Sir, I was an idiot. I didn't know. I only saw an old, tired man. But now I see the hero you are. Forgive me." The veteran stares at him for a few seconds. Then, with a slight smile, he replies, "Boy, the problem isn't you. It's the world that taught you to look, but not to see." The camera focuses on the young man's teary eyes. That sentence hits him hard, as if it disarmed something inside him. He kneels beside the old man and says, "Thank you for teaching me what true respect is." The veteran places his hand on the young man's head in an almost paternal gesture. The surrounding audience feels the impact. It's the moment the villain redeems himself, and the hero shows greatness even in pain. The restaurant owner raises his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we all learned a lesson. A man's worth isn't in the clothes he wears, nor the money he carries. It's in the story he carries within." More applause. The veteran tries to get up, but the owner gently stops him. "No, please, stay. This table is yours, and always will be." The veteran looks around. For a moment, the world seems lighter. He realizes there is still kindness, even in a place where before there was only indifference. The narrator enters, his voice slow and deep. How many heroes pass us by unnoticed every day? How many calloused hands, how many weary eyes carry stories no one wants to hear anymore? Respect is the least we owe to those who have given their all for us. And the plate of food is served again, but this time it's the waiter who brings it. He places it before the veteran with a look of sincere regret. The old man thanks him, and the young man says quietly, "That's on me." The entire restaurant watches. Silence returns. But it's a beautiful silence, of peace and reverence. Outside, the rain has stopped. The sun begins to break through the clouds, illuminating the restaurant's sign. And inside, the reflection of the veteran smiling for the first time in a long time. True nobility lies in recognizing the worth of others, and true heroism lies in forgiving. Never underestimate a veteran. He's fought wars you couldn't stand for a single day. The restaurant slowly returns to its routine. But something has changed. People speak more quietly. Their gazes are different. There's a heaviness in the air, the weight of conscience awakening. That veteran who just minutes ago had been treated like a starving beggar was now seen as what he always was, a silent hero, forgotten by a world that learned to value appearances over stories. It's strange, isn't it? We need to see pain laid bare to remember it exists. We need a humiliated hero to remember that dignity is priceless. The veteran eating slowly. The cutlery clinks softly on the plate, and the sound is almost poetic. Each bite feels like a small triumph. Not because it's a meal, but because it represents something much greater. The recognition of a forgotten value. As the old man eats, the narrator continues. For years he fought battles far from home. He saw friends fall. He returned with his body wounded and his soul in pieces. And all he asked for was a plate of food. We live in times when heroes walk among us disguised as ordinary people. Men and women who gave everything for a country that often doesn't even remember their names. The veteran looks out the window, the sun's reflection catching his worn medals. The image conveys peace, but also loneliness. A powerful visual symbol, the kind of frame the TikTok algorithm loves because it creates quiet emotion. And while many judge by appearance, few remember to ask, what has this person experienced to get here? The restaurant owner approaches again, placing a discreet envelope next to the plate. It's a financial contribution, a gesture of gratitude. But the veteran pushes it back with a slight smile and says, "I've already received what I needed. Respect." This simple sentence is the moment of catharsis. It closes the character's emotional arc, showing that true value lies not in money, but in human recognition. The narrator concludes with a slow voice, with a growing emotional path. We live surrounded by people fighting invisible battles, some physical, some emotional, and sometimes the least we can offer is a look of compassion. A warrior who won, not with weapons, but with dignity. The veteran walks slowly under the gray sky, the sound of the rain returning softly, almost like a quiet applause from nature. He rests his tired hands on the handle of his cane, and each step echoes like the sound of persistence, the sound of someone who has learned to fall and rise 1,000 times. He didn't ask for pity. He didn't ask for applause. All he wanted was a little respect. As he walks, quick flashes show memories, the battlefield, the faces of his fallen comrades, the sound of sirens, the smell of smoke. While many see only a weak old man, time sees a warrior. While the world quickens its pace, he walks to the rhythm of memory, of someone who once ran for the lives of all of us. He stops in front of a silent square, where there is a small monument bearing the names of former soldiers. He runs his trembling fingers over the worn letters and whispers something that no one hears, but the viewer feels. It's a thank you, or maybe a goodbye. Heroes don't wear capes, they wear scars. They carry the weight of what they've done, and the silence of what they've lost. A child approaches him, offering a small umbrella. The veteran smiles, places his hand on the boy's head, and says something simple yet full of meaning. Never laugh at those who came before you, because it's thanks to them that you're still here. The boy doesn't fully understand, but smiles back. Respect is reborn, not in the repentant adult, but in the innocence of those who can still learn. Perhaps humanity can still be saved if we can teach the new generations the value of gratitude. And you? Have you thanked someone today who fought for your peace